Welcome, everybody. Happy to have everybody on the call here today. The topic today is going to be an introduction to Rivery through kits, which are our plug-and-play data models for common use cases and data sources. All righty. Cool. So Omid, thank you for teeing up the intro. Junimate is one of our trusted partners in the Israel region. And my name is Dan Greenberg. I am the Director of Partnerships and Sales for Rivery, and I've been with the company coming up on about 4 years now. So I've really sort of seen the product develop and unfold in the market for some time, and it's been an awesome experience. I'll talk a little bit about the company background in a second. Cool. Just in terms of an introduction and what we're going to be going through, we're going to talk a little bit about Rivery and who we are. What is a kit and how do they work, and some main use cases for those kits. The next topic is going to be collaboration. I think this is a major element to sort of how we see kits unfolding, for our customers and our partners moving forward from here. And then we're going to go into a live demonstration. So we'll walk through a couple of different ways that you sort of build within Rivery, and then we'll take that that example, that scope, and apply it to a real live example of a kit in action. So you can sort of see that end-to-end process take place. Cool. So a little bit about Rivery. We are a new age SaaS ELT platform that helps companies streamline their entire data operation, right? So this goes beyond just replication of data, but also offering full push-down transformation capabilities in our client's cloud data warehouse of choice, while also providing multi-tenant environments to allow for pipeline promotion within our console, right? So whether you're leveraging Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery, some of these very highly performant data warehouses in the market, Rivery can help support the analytical insights and processing of disparate streams to those locations, right? In terms of company background, we've been going to market for about 4 years now, since 2017. At the end of 2019, we were part of a larger data analytics consultancy, and we spun off the company and raised our seed round and then our Series A in the early part of this year, right? So we are very much in hyper growth mode in terms of expanding the team, expanding the product, and all of the capabilities that you could sort of see in the console. So again, very, very exciting time to be a part of Rivery, and happy to sort of share some of that journey with you guys. We're based throughout the globe, so our product team is some of our support team is based in Tel Aviv. Our business is headquartered in New York City, New York, and then we also have an office in Austin, Texas, and soon to come offices in EMEA as well. Cool. So what is a kit, right? Rivery kits are fully built data models that includes everything you need to get data to insights and value instantly. These are fully built data models that solve common use cases that we see from our customers, right? So everything from capturing data sources to true ingestion, from disparate streams, whether it be CRM, relational databases, marketing sources, ad serving, you name it, right? But then also the transformation logic to push this down into the data warehouse and model your insights so that they can be more easily understood or normalized across data sources, right? We'll also create those table definitions, the metadata in terms of how the data is structured coming into that data warehouse, and then also the automation for scheduling a cadence to run these pipelines on a particular basis, so that your warehouse is consistently updated with modeled streams of analytical information. So kits, the scope of kits can be very small or very large, right? So it can be as small as a single pipeline, for instance, like Facebook ads, right? So we'd be able to seamlessly extract data and manage the required transformation logic for this source, which in certain cases, like Facebook ads, is very crucial to handle, let's say, incoming nested fields or other things that might need to be transformed in your BigQuery and your Snowflake, wherever you're centralizing your data downstream, right? So they can be as small as a single pipeline, but the scope can also be as large as an entire environment, right, on the other end of the spectrum. While this is a bit more unlikely, it's entirely possible that a kit can be an entire environment with hundreds of rivers across different use cases and different data sources. And when I say river, just in terms of terminology, I mean a data pipeline. That's basically what we call it in Rivery. So having the ability to manage these related use cases within an entire multi-tenant environment allows for quick time to value when our customers have more advanced analytics requirements that we need to help fulfill. So in terms of kits, basically they can be designed to save on repeatable workflows, right? So whether it's a single data source, entire environment of data sources, basically what we want to do is we want to take common trends that we're seeing in the market, common pain points that our customers need to solve in terms of their data operations, and make that more seamless and make that more repeatable within their analytics environment, right? And so the ability to sort of go through what we call a kits hub, I'll talk about that in a second, deploy these pipelines in a very quick time to value within your console and get up and running very quickly. That's the end goal here. So in terms of some main use cases that we see for kits, I sort of alluded to this on the last slide. So a kit can be, a single source like Facebook ads or NetSuite, whatever the relevant integration may be, that we sort of streamline into the data warehouse, apply any transformation logic, and boom, right? Within a single source in a couple of seconds, you're up and running. But we also see the use case for multi-source kits, right? So for instance, we'll go through like a social analytics kit later in the demonstration where you'll need to maybe integrate Facebook data alongside Snapchat and Twitter. And when you have these disparate but related streams coming in from different ad serving sources, oftentimes the data needs to be normalized, right? So that a campaign, let's say in Facebook, means the same thing as a campaign in Twitter. So having the pre-built SQL logic to do that normalization really increases time to value, increases usability within the platform. And then one thing that I think is also really interesting is the concept of new source creation, right? So within Rivery, we have the capability, we call it an action river, but basically it's a no-code user interface to call any data source that we don't have a native source supported for. So for instance, like Pendo, that's how we sort of analyze our product analytics information, or Intercom, content ad. We have a couple of these kits that we've built out initially, but basically common use cases that we see for actions, we can turn into kits, right? In terms of new source creation. So this is, I think, a super interesting take on, on how we sort of deploy new pipelines for some of our clients and partners where we might not have a native supported source in question, right? So a lot of different interesting and creative ways that we can leverage these kits. So available kits can be found on our GitHub. This is something that we're constantly iterating on, constantly improving on, right? So within our console and both on our website, we have probably somewhere between 15 to 20 different kits that we've already created. But this is something that in terms of our capacity and our product team, we're consistently working to improve. We're taking feedback from the market, from our clients, from our partners, right? And so making these kits, collaborative and iterative is, I think, something that is a huge focus on our product team over the coming weeks and months. Cool. So in terms of like how we customize and collaborate with kits, again, we sort of see kits as a starting point to a lot of these key use cases, right? So a few different areas where we could sort of, customize what we've already built. So we have pre-existing kits, and we can customize the needs of these pre-existing kits to a particular use case, right? I think a good example could be relating back to that, ad serving kit between Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. Let's say maybe a digital agency also needed TikTok data, right? Or some other, social platform that isn't initially supported within that kit. It's definitely something that we could work to customize alongside our excellent support staff. And again, the customization can be across a wide range of different use cases. So that's one area that we see as a potential area for collaboration. One thing that's also, I think, really relevant is collaborating with partners for repeatable client use cases that we see in the field. So I think a great example of this kit collaboration is between our partner Junomate, who we're hosting the webinar with, and our joint client Anodot. So Anodot, just for background, it's an autonomous business monitoring platform that basically discovers outliers in vast amounts of time series data. And it isolates issues and correlates them across multiple parameters in real time, right? So eliminates business latency and ensures that you can support rapid business decisions through the insights that this tool uncovers. So Judomate's a consulting partner that advises Anodot on its data and analytics initiatives. one of which was ELT and therefore, Rivery. So once Internet signed on with Rivery, our teams were starting to think collectively about how we could serve our joint clients. And to speed up time to insight for Rivery and Anadot users, we created a kit to streamline Anadot alerts into our client's data warehouse for further analysis. So the Rivery kit for Anadot users basically gives them the ability to uncover all relevant alerts that Anadot produces for downstream analysis, which ultimately gives those users a better ability to understand issues that Anadot uncovered, right? And so this is just one example of how, with a partner and with a client, we found a use case that can serve, joint clients, right, across all three, involved parties. But this is definitely something that we want to replicate across the market. And then one thing as well is, in terms of collaboration, is requesting new kits to be developed by our product team. So if you don't see a kit that might be extremely helpful for your particular use case, get in touch with us, and it's absolutely something we could look to prioritize, based on our bandwidth and based on other things that we're hearing in terms of client priorities. Cool. So we're going to move into the product now for the live demonstration, but if there are any initial questions, I'd be happy to take them now. All right, awesome. I will switch my screen to the platform then, and we will continue the conversation there. Mia, can you see my screen all right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I always like to start on this page when I'm opening the product, because I think it's a good example of how you build within Rivery, and those processes will also be repeated when we're sort of deploying those kits, right? And so first thing you'll notice is Rivery is a native SaaS product, so there's no setup or installation of a cloud infrastructure, directly accessible within your web-based browser, and then basically all of the pipelines that you're creating, whether it be from kits or from any other medium, the platform behind the scenes will scale out or scale down to meet the resource needs of the pipelines that you create. In terms of what you can create, starting with the source to target, I think makes the most sense. So this is your EL of ELT, right? So bringing from Facebook, from Snapchat, from NetSuite, Oracle, whatever the source may be, down into your data warehouse. The second element of ELT is the T, right? So this is the logic or the transformation. So it's not only the downstream transformation of any incoming stream in, let's say, a Redshift, a BigQuery, whatever it may be, but also the orchestration of data processes, right? So you can orchestrate your ingestion pipelines and then have that updated data feed your SQL queries in a modular subsequent step. The action is this third element here. So this is the no-code GUI for basically calling any APIs that we don't natively support. But this also supports like posting capability as well. So a lot of our clients in the logic pipeline will, at the end of the process, maybe want to send information, modeled insights information, back to third-party applications, what we call reverse ELT. And so the actions can be very useful, both to bring data down from non-native sources, but also to push to applications as well. And when I was talking about custom kits from Pendo, from Intercom, some of these non-native sources, that's that pipeline that we would leverage for that. Cool. So I will move into the kits hub right here. So you'll see this like top right hand call to action, and you have a variety of different kits across different topics, right? Accounting and finance, customer service, human resources, intelligence and analytics, you name it, right? And so you can sort of scroll through all the kits, see the target destinations that they're supported for, right? And it'll give you a very good idea of what we have available here. So I will go down into marketing and advertising, and we will look to deploy one of these kits. So if I hit preview, basically you're given an entire description of like what the kit does. So this kit integrates Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat data into a consolidated data model downstream. We have information on the basically on the entities that are integrated into the data model, and then also a data model ERD diagram. Right? You can be very clear on the primary keys that are automatically set for you, as this is something that you're going to be working with in the account as soon as it's deployed. So as soon as we hit use kit, we will have a prompt on screen for basically connections that we need to set. So this is a prerequisite to leveraging any kit. So you'll need working, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, and then your source destination. In this case, it's BigQuery credentials. So if you go in, you could just seamlessly set some of these connections, which I have pre-configured in my demo account. And then when you hit next, basically what it's going to do is going to deploy all of these pipelines into your Rivers console, which you can sort of see on the left-hand side here. And as soon as this is deployed, we'll look through basically what all of these different pipelines entail and how that's orchestrated to create that data flow downstream. So I'll give it a second to load here. And I guess while this is loading, I can sort of take you into the data model entities, right? And so you can see the outputs from the kit, the data model diagram in a little bit more detail, and then all of like the fact and dimension tables that will be created via the kit in that transformation logic are mapped out in this spreadsheet. And you'll be able to like see what those SQL queries look like in a second. But if you want to drill down to like a finer level of detail in terms of all the things that are being integrated from these different entities, very easy to do so within this like linked spreadsheet. The pipelines are being pre-configured now. I could probably just hit skip, and then it'll give me the option within my pipeline here. Right, exactly. So this is basically what I deployed right here. I just need to go back and configure those connections. So you'll see a variety of different things that are happening within this kit, right? So the first part of this, logical pipeline is EL, right? The EL of ELT. So this is your ingestion from, and so yeah, so I just successfully deployed my kit with all the pre-configured connections. So basically what this does, it'll pull, your Twitter tweets, your statistics, your campaigns, your ad accounts. So all of the relevant entities from Twitter and then Facebook and Snapchat. And then it'll orchestrate these pipelines, let's say, to update at the same time every day or the same time every hour, whenever you need that refreshed information to your data warehouse. The second thing is the dimension tables, right? So we're creating dimension tables for ad account, ad group, campaign, and ad across these different sources. So if we open up the SQL, you could basically see all of the relevant transformations, and you'll see a lot of this normalization, right? Where we'll make sure that Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat are all being denominated under the same naming convention, so that our SQL queries and our joins can work across these different. So we have that across different levels of reporting granularity, and then the last step here is creating that fact table downstream, right? So if I open up this SQL transformation step, you can see all the different joins to create the fact table, so that when I go into my warehouse or when I sync up my Tableau or my Look or whatever my analytics tool is, on top of that fact table, it'll be very seamless to start creating, my analytical insights, in a couple of minutes, right? And so you can sort of see in a few steps how, we go into the kit, we deploy the kit, set up the connections, that you could have a pre-built data model across 3 different sources and, in several minutes, right? And so what we're doing here is we're speeding up that time to value, that time to insight, again, for this very common use case that we see in the market. And then one thing I think is also particularly relevant in this kit, let me just go back here, is the settings and schedule, right? So we can orchestrate this again every hour, every day, whatever it may be. We can have notifications on failures or on warnings, and then we can have activities here as well to basically track all of the executions. Each time a pipeline runs, does it succeed? Does it fail? If it fails, what's the error message, right? If you need to debug, right? So to really monitor the entirety of your data operation, we give you all the tools and all the flexibility to do so within the console, right? Awesome. So in terms of a demonstration, again, that's really all I had prepared for today, and more than happy to sort of answer some questions here. But I think, as you sort of like scroll through the GitHub here and see some of the different examples, right? So we have, this content ad kit we built via Actions, right? This is a non-native source. You see a lot of, individual sources that are common use cases, right? In addition to some of those multi-source use cases that we just went through, for example, that marketing B2C kit. But yeah, be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody in the group has. And again, if there are any follow-ups, Omid or I can sort of answer those offline as well.
Guys, don't be shy. If you need to ask in Hebrew, that's also okay.
I have a question for you, Daniel. Hi. Do you support now the running of custom Python scripts?
It's a really good question. We actually are in the final stages of development for Python integration. I think our ETA is expected to be end of September, early October for integration of Python scripts. And so that'll basically be directly accessible like within the logic pipelines. So it's absolutely something we consider as part of this kit's capability, I think, moving forward. But yeah, we're in the final stages of QA there for supporting Python.
So as a follow-up question, I have another question regarding sources. You showed us an example of Facebook. Do you handle rate limitation by external sources? For example, Facebook I know have a very strict rate limitation with their APIs. I guess other vendors are the same. I'm not sure about Twitter. Do you know how to handle it? Because if you take a large report or calls from Facebook, you'll be denied from the service shortly. So do you guys know how to handle that?
Yeah, on the back end, on most of these ad serving sources, we have certain capacities to handle rate limitations and different types of pulls. I would say it sort of depends on a client by client basis, right? Like if we have a digital agency with 1,000 different clients and they're trying to execute pulls, very frequently, that maybe we're coming up against those rate limitations, but on the back end, that is handled by the connectors and how that's intrinsically set up.
If I may, that is one of the advantage of working with an external tool for marketing APIs or third-party APIs, because implementing this on your own, for example, on Airflow, is a big headache. For example, Search Console, I wrote a blog in the website community. It took me about 2 weeks to get a sense of all the complex throttling and rate limitations. And it's a big problem. So this is from my perspective as a consultant. When I talk to customers, I emphasize this use case so they'll understand why it's important and why it will be easier and cost effective to work with such a tool. And by the way, Daniel knows I'm an Airflow expert, so when I suggest working with a third-party tool, is really an element of cost benefit, and using such a tool sometimes saves a data engineer, so a cost of a data engineer for a lot of months. So bear that in mind.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Omid, right? Because obviously some of these third-party open source tools they seem free, initially, but the total cost of ownership in terms of developer hours and what it'll actually take to get production ready pipelines up and running, I think is something that can't be overstated enough. So absolutely a good point.
May I ask something regarding the kits?
Yep.
The kits are only implemented on third-party APIs, correct?
Not necessarily. Like we have like a NetSuite kit. I believe there's some. Yeah, I mean they're third-party data sources, but yeah, we definitely see kits as something.
I think you also have RESTful API, right? You can do a connection to a REST API, so it opens another options for others, other APIs.
Exactly. Yeah. So this, I mean, that's basically what I was saying in terms of like the new source creation. So this is like a source that we don't natively support. So this kit is via our actions capability, right? So when you deploy this kit, basically it's pre-configured actions pipelines, which look a little bit different than what we call data source to target pipelines that are natively supported. So yeah, as long as there's a RESTful API, we absolutely could collaborate or create a kit to support that data source. Most of, I would say, the data sources right now are some of the native sources that we see as, most common or most painful for our clients and partners, right? But yeah, anything that has a RESTful API, we can definitely support as well.
Another question, I'll fine-tune it for a use case where one of my customers is deploying his product on per environment, per customer and environment, a dedicated environment at his customer's environment. Meaning it's a B2B to C scenario. So my question is, would the Rivery kits be suitable in this use case where you need to do CDC, for example, for MySQL to BigQuery and get third-party marketing API tools, because this is the product being deployed at the end customer's environment.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we have a good amount of clients that are not just pulling internal data, right? Are pulling data on behalf of their clients. So I think it's thinking about like, what is the end-to-end structure like of the kit look like, right? And can sometimes we leverage like the multi-tenant approach like with environments to help deploy the kits as well. Because if you think about it, right, like if you really sort of need to segment your client's data flows, having the ability to have those multi-tenant workspaces and the kits sort of aligned to those workspaces, I think can be extremely valuable, right? It's not just a single source. Sometimes it's not just a multitude of sources. Kits can be the entirety of like an environment. So we sort of see that as like a future outlook or a future end state that we could potentially provide here.
Okay.
I have another question or statement. Then you haven't discussed the on-premise source to target. As I remember, you do support the things to be done, but you do support from on-premise, for example, from MySQL and from on-premise server to BigQuery, right? It's still supported.
Correct.
And the other question, do you support flows like CI/CD? Or is it done by action or whatever?
Are you in terms of just like pipeline promotion, are you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. So yes, we absolutely do have SQL Server capabilities, MySQL. So I think typically we find with these on-premises databases, the schemas and structures are typically more defined, right? Just being the nature of relational systems. So when we go into these pipelines, it's very easy. Like we have this capability called multi-tables where basically all of the schemas are predefined. You can select which tables you need, easily set the incremental fields. So I think the kits are a little bit less relevant for those types of sources that I think are out of the box sometimes, a little bit more straightforward to configure. So that would be the first part of the question. Like, yes, we absolutely support it. But I think the kits focus on some of these more niche third-party APIs that have funky incoming streams of data a lot of the times. Yeah, and then in terms of pipeline promotion, we do have this environments feature. So we mentioned this before, but basically what you can do is you can create different what we call workspaces or environments in this environments manager. So you can see like in this demo account, we have our dev, our prod, our staging. And then also, if you're an agency, right, or if you're B2B2C, right, you need to sort of segment, your environments on a per client basis. You can configure those and then create the deployment packages from one environment to the next, and promote those pipelines accordingly once they've, let's say, been validated in your test environment or validated in your dev environment, and you want to move them to prod. So giving that multi-tenancy and also the user access control as well, right? So you can sort of set the permissions on a per user basis, within the environments, I think makes it very, again, easy to control the flows within the console.
If I may, another comment, Tomer. Usually what we do when we have to synchronize data pipelines from different products is we use post API requests. For example, from Rivery to do an API post request to Airflow to run another pipeline. And you can do the same for Jenkins for the CI/CD pipelines.
יש לנו למסעדה. אפשר מחר למסעדה.
Okay, guys, if there are any more questions, please, now is the time. Do not hesitate. If not, we're just going to let you know that we're working with Rivery to have a series of lectures in the future that will be a bit broader and more general. That will be a lot more informative and provide more technical data and technical use cases. That should be great. We're working on that. And as a community, we're also working on the possibility of venues, using venues, sticking to Israeli compliance guidelines regarding COVID. So should you have any feedback or questions about it, please don't hesitate to contact me. And as always, this video and this video and slides will be available on our website, which is shared here, Big Data Demystified. It will be somewhere here, and everybody who RSVP'd to the meetup will get a message about the direct link for the video and slides. Okay, guys, so unless you have any more questions, I would like to thank Daniel for taking the time to prepare us this content. And thank you all for coming. Until the next time.